The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Sloot. Henrietta Lacks was a poor African-American woman who was in need of medical attention, and the only place willing to care for non-whites was Johns Hopkins Hospital. Henrietta put all of her trust in a doctor named George Guy and believed that he could help her get well. He took great care of Henrietta and soon diagnosed her with pancreatic cancer. Doctors at the time didn't ask the patients for permission to perform experimental operations because, in their minds, they were helping African Americans when no one else would. During the operations, Dr. Guy took cell samples from Henrietta's cervix and discovered that they had the ability to continue growing after being removed from her body. At this point, Henrietta wasn't feeling much improvement, but she didn't feel any worse, which is probably the reason why her death at such a young age surprised so many people. The fun-loving woman that so many people adored died at the age of 31. The doctors continued to remove cells from Henrietta, and to their amazement, the cells were still growing after they technically had been dead for hours. This was the first sign of immortal cells, HeLa. Henrietta's family mourned for their loss and moved on with their life without her. No one, not even doctors, told them about their mother's cells or what they were doing for the medical world. With her immortal cells, doctors were able to develop a vaccine for polio, and eventually researchers began contacting her family members for blood samples to see if they were the same way. Henrietta's family didn't learn about the immortal cells until about 30 years after her death, and they never saw a dime from the millions of dollars it had made. HeLa cells have been used to test human sensitivity to glue, cosmetics, tape, and many other products. Henrietta was a great woman who was always willing to help people in any way she could, and she is still doing that 60 years after her death. This is an overview of the major events that took place with Henrietta's immortal cells. In 1951, the biopsy of Henrietta Lacks' tumor was collected without her knowledge. This launched the HeLa cell line. In 1971, the journal Obstetrics and Gynecology named Henrietta Lacks as the HeLa source, which later spread to mainstream press. In 1973, Lacks' family learned about HeLa cells, and scientists later collected their blood without proper consent. In 1996, Henrietta's family was honored at the first annual HeLa Cancer Control Symposium, which was organized by former students of scientists who isolated HeLa cells. In 2013, HeLa genome was published without knowledge of the family, which later endorses restrict access to HeLa genome data.